Truth and justice have transpired. I want to thank Australia's legal system and Judge Kelly, who has been unbiased and neutral as he took on board all the facts since Novak landed in Melbourne Airport, including the bullying he's been through.
Let's go to New York and speak to Jane McManus, who is the director of the Centre for Sports Communication at Marist College. Jane, welcome to the programme. From a PR point of view, from a communications point of view, how has Novak Djokovic emerged from all of this?
Well, I mean, the big win for him is that he gets to stay and to compete for a 10th Australian Open title. I would say, you know, in one way, he's definitely won in that he's in the country and he should be able to compete, barring what the immigration minister decides. But on the other hand, you know, he has really raised the bar, I think, for each subsequent tournament going forward. You really are going to have, I think you're going to have France, you're going to have the UK, you're going to have the United States, probably less so. But still, each country is going to really have to grapple with what their standards are and make sure that they're applying them fairly. And to see when Djokovic is able to enter each of those countries to compete in their Grand Slam events. I think the idea that you can get COVID at a timely point and test positive is not necessarily a strategy for playing a year's worth of tournaments on the ATP Tour, but it seems to have put things to bed, at least for tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately for Djokovic, the court case has revealed that he had a positive PCR test result on the 16th of December. So he had the test on that day, it's believed, and he got the result 7 hours later. And then on social media, he himself is posting pictures of him meeting members of the public in Serbia, meeting children, having himself honoured with stamps with his face on them. How does that look? OK, if he doesn't want to get vaccinated, that's one thing. But if you test positive for a disease that can cause a lifetime of trouble if you pass it on to somebody else, how does that look for him?
It's incredibly irresponsible. I mean, this is the larger picture for any country is, do you want to have somebody who's anti-vaccine and behaving in a reckless manner come into your country, especially after, you know, a year and a half of lockdowns and really, you know, misery when it comes to public health generally. And Australia has been so tough and their lockdowns have been so pervasive. And I think a lot of people are looking at this now and saying, well, you know, what do you do if you just play tennis? If you can hit a ball, maybe I should have taken my tennis lessons a little bit more seriously if all it takes is being able to do something well and then you can jump the queue. But I think this, you know, the behavior here is obviously quite reckless. He didn't follow protocols on isolation after he got the test or after he took the test. This is another thing that hasn't really come out, but you really aren't supposed to go to public events unmasked if you've taken a COVID test while you're awaiting the results. So this idea that, well, he didn't get the results, so maybe that's why he's going and having a stamp ceremony and all these other things, an award ceremony on the 17th, or L'Equipe is saying now that there was some sort of photo shoot that was happening on the 18th. So all of these different things, I think, point to a person who's behaving in such that he does not expect there to be any accountability for behavior or protecting the public health generally. And I think that's the bigger picture for a lot of these countries then is what are our rules and what are our standards when it comes to letting people in? Do we want to let in anti-vaxxers who are behaving recklessly and could spread the virus?
Jane, I understand you're also a sports columnist for the New York Daily News. So give us a sports take on what's going to happen over the next few weeks in Melbourne, because we know Djokovic is an extremely emotional character. If it turns into a pantomime every time he turns up on court and he gets booed for the duration of his matches, how do you think he might react? I mean, do you even think he will get booed continuously?
Well, you know, I think you have to look at what's happening in the streets tonight in Melbourne, where you had all of these people coming out. There was tear gas. You had people really there supporting Djokovic. And I do wonder, you know, if the Australian Open, if you know, Rod Laver Arena is going to be in some way a reckoning now between, you know, people who believe in vaccination and who, you know, have very strong feeling when it comes to public health and rule following, and then also people who are more of the personal liberty, you know, if I can, my body, my choice type of crowd when it comes to this issue. I mean, in some ways, that would be really unfortunate for this event. You know, you have something kind of serious though on the competition side of it. Public health, one thing, and then on the competition side, Djokovic is going to, trying to get his 21st Grand Slam singles title, which would, put him up as somebody who had been more victorious than Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. And that's quite something. I mean, I think there will always be a question about this era, whether or not everybody was able to play in the same way, because traveling and playing and remaining in competition shape is a little bit different at the current moment than it's been, or in the, 2010s. But at the same time, that's a serious conversation to be had. And Djokovic is putting it on the line by, risking his ability to get into countries and defend this. But for now, anyway, I think the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks could be very interesting in terms of, the polarity that he as a person and his behavior now, brings to that crowd and brings to that event.
It's going to be so interesting. Jane McManus, thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed hearing what you have to say, and it's going to be so interesting to see what happens in Melbourne. Take care.